Again, YouTube world, I am back after a short content creation break. How has everybody been? Please let me know in the comments. I absolutely love to read those. And let's dive right in to review Kiely Rodni's autopsy in terms of errors and inconsistencies. And every time I see one, I'm going to mark it with this blue mustache symbol you can see on the right. The very first document I wanted to have a look at is Kiely's autopsy record that came from Nevada County Sheriff's Office, and it does not have a date. So it does mention the date of the examination, which is August 23rd, but the document itself has no date and no page number. So it's kind of just floating in the documentation package on its own. The next page after this is the report of autopsy that starts with page 1, line 1. So we can assume that maybe this is a cover page, but how can a cover page have no annotation of a date? And then the signature of the medical legal certifier who certifies the cause of death should be signed in permanent black ink. But Mr. Gregory Reber brought his own pen, looks like, which was not black. Maybe he was using electronic authentication, which is also permitted. What do you guys think? But then if it's electronic, you can kind of adjust the saturation and make it black. So rubber stamps are not permitted, and neither are blue pens, actually. And if you're wondering where I'm taking this information, it's straight from the CDC. This week I was reading their medical examiners and coroner's handbook on death registration, and a good resource, a good source was the chapter on general instructions for completing certificates and reports, and I highly advise anyone who worked on this documentation package to familiarize themselves with this handbook. The handbook had no information about using whiteout, and this image on the right comes from the autopsy record, so we're zooming into the specimens taken part. And if we look at it like a medical document, any error in documentation should have a single line written through it, this way or this way, and initialed by the person doing the correction. And as far as I know, you're also supposed to put the date on the correction. While this is not technically the law, the use of corrective materials in a medical record can suggest improper altering of a medical record, which is illegal. This part gets a mustache. If we look at the document in terms of forensics, altered forensic documents should be sent to Police Department Crime Laboratory Division to be examined for evidence of alterations, including erasures, discoloration, and smearing of printed entries, which I think we're seeing here because these ticks right here appear printed. This box right here appears whited out, which is illegal on a medical document as well as in a forensic document. It also mentions that stock tissue was collected as well as toxicology. And let's remember that. So liver was collected for toxicology, and then some stock tissue was also collected. Let's keep that in mind, and I want to quickly zoom into this top part of the document because it is just interesting. Let's look at the examination type. In terms of autopsies, I know of forensic, clinical, academic, virtual autopsies. RO is a medical abbreviation for rule out. Having made a ruling out examination, the cause of death is found to be drowning. What are they ruling out? I just wonder. And in forensics, RO stands for reporting officer. That does not apply to this page either. So if you guys know what an RO autopsy in forensics means, please enlighten me because I do not know. Next document I want to look at that comes right after this page we just examined is called the Report of Autopsy. It was created by the Office of the Sheriff Coroner, Nevada County, Shannon Moon, and Gregory Reber, the guy with the blue pen. Do you remember when we looked at this slide and I underlined stock tissue? Then if we look at the end of this document here, it says that for toxicology, the liver tissue was collected, which is in line with cover page, unnumbered, undated. And then the materials for histology, which is an examination of cells, sections of the major organs, plural, are saved as stock tissue. So I'm very interested to hear more about that. What are the sections of the major organs? Were they eligible for DNA identification, which they totally should? And then this line right here, number 197, says evidence, and I am assuming that this is evidence collected during the autopsy itself, and it mentions brushings, swabs and smears, and a DNA card. I know that on the 21st, the sheriff's office came with this incident report where they're saying that no DNA was taken and the DNA collection was not refused either. But if we look at the date, so this is on the 21st, and then on the 23rd, a DNA card is mentioned. So I wonder if that might be how Kiely might have been identified. But considering that she was identified during the autopsy, how did they run a DNA sample in a few hours? I don't know. I'm skeptical, but that would be very impressive. Let's continue looking at the report of the autopsy. I've never seen anything like this on a medical or forensic document because they are rounding the weight to the nearest 10. Kiely's heart was 90 grams, right lung 100, left lung 110, liver 400, kidneys 50 and 70, spleen 40 grams, brain 1,000 grams or 1 kilogram. Usually in medical documentation, we see rounding to the nearest whole or half. So this would be like 104 or 104.4, so something like that. But I've never seen a document with these roundings. Again, if you guys know the details of why it could have been done this way, please let me know. And then the last page of the report of autopsy, it's the last page of this report we're looking at here. And well, this is just fabulous because Mr. Reber, MD, carrying on with his blue pen, and then he also looks like didn't have time to know the year using 4 digits, because if someone in the healthcare or medical environment put a date like this, which can be adjusted to 2000, it just doesn't work. It needs to be 4 digits, and that's actually what you see throughout all the documentation in this package. And what caught my eye was that they called Detective Josephine Strachan Josie, which is not her legal name. Why are they calling her Josie on a legal document? Next document is the coroner's final report. It was also produced by Nevada County Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Moon, and she keeps surprising me. One document is undated, and then this document is dated, but the date is partially italicized, or like the 10 looks drunk and leaning to the right, just to simply put it. So this page gets a mustache as well. There's also been some discussion where Kiely's address is located, and I researched that question as well. Let's take a look at the Google Maps. So we would see that Truckee is definitely on the Nevada side, but then Kiely's address is on the Placer County side and like quite deeply in it. But my theory here is that maybe because you cannot just put the street, you have to attribute a city, and since the closest big city is Truckee, and Truckee is located in Nevada, in fact it's incorporated in Nevada County, California, maybe that's why they're using Nevada there. Let's take a quick look at the Lost Trail Lodge. because while I was on the Google Maps, I, of course, had to click and check them out. Their website, as of today, I'm recording this on November 3rd, 2022. It still says we're reopening for the fall, so no updates here. I'm not too sure why. Maybe they're busy, maybe they're grieving, maybe they're planning to reopen. I don't know. And then this quote caught my eye. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. So I guess it's a reminder for us to get a hobby, take a walk. And the first thing that needs to unplug and take a walk would be Google Maps, because look how the address is spelled out here. It's 8600 Cold Stream Road. And this is the legal address. This is the Google Maps address. But the address on the coroner's final report on investigation and the incident report, it spells it differently. So I am guessing the sheriff's office would know it better than Google. Let me know in the comments, you guys. What do you think? And next, let's look at the incident report. And this one got a lot of mustaches from me. I'm going to go through them one by one in the following slides. And actually, who inspired me to do this was Squirrels on Fire. It's an amazing channel. Shen has a great sense of humor, and she also has an incredible eye for detail and great organization skills. She pointed out that place of birth, citizen status, Kiely's status as a juvenile, and her SSN were all missing. So please go check out her channel. The link will be down below. So we put all our mustaches here. Let's pull out, our guidebook, handbook, and see what it says about the place of birth. So I want to point out first that this was filled in on the 21st of August. So Kiely has been missing for a little over 2 weeks at this point. And it surprises me that her place of birth is just blank, because if no information is available about a kid who's been missing for over 2 weeks, you just put unknown. You can't really leave it blank like that. In terms of the social security number, could it have been omitted due to her being a minor? It's possible. But then I would rather expect to see it redacted, not blank. If this is left blank, it means that the informant does not know the decedent's SSN at the time of the interview. So how can it be, I'm assuming her family would be the informant. How can it be that no one by the 21st knew her as a social security number? That's odd to me. Amongst other cabinet of oddities that this documentation package is. Next is Kiely is mentioned to be not a juvenile. If we look at this report as a forensic medical document, so in terms of the medical part, and this categorization is also used in pharmacology, the juvenile is someone between the age of an infant and an adult. So if she's not a juvenile, medically speaking, she's an adult, which she can't be at age 16. And then from the legal perspective, juvenile falls between this age, the cutoff of which is 7 years. And then, if the kid does something really harmful, they can be taken to the juvenile court. But until they're 7, through common law, the child is not capable of committing a crime. Here again, we see that if Kiely is not a juvenile, she's an adult through this system as well. So these two systems kind of mirror each other. And actually, I wanted to take a look at the Juvenile Cutoff Age, which I looked up on the website of the Interstate Commission for Juveniles. It's a fresh report, 2022. And we see that in California, the cutoff age is 18. But then if the kid does something severe, the age of criminal responsibility starts at 16, and it means that that kid can be taken to adult court jurisdiction, so it can just be taken to adult court. We see that 16 is the juvenile age. So 16 is a juvenile age at which the case can be transferred to adult court. How is she an adult at 16 if she didn't commit any crimes and wasn't taken to adult court? How does that apply? I'm just wondering. Then the incident report we just looked at also has a supplement page. It's called supplement number 3. This was reported on October 12th. The interesting part for me here is that Detective Josephine, or Detective Josie, as Sheriff Moon calls her on a legal document. So the detective was present during the autopsy and documented her observations and the method of identification that remains unknown to the public as of today. But they say that there's a supplemental report number 14 where she is sharing and documenting her method of identification. And I am also curious to see this report because she would only really have a few routes here. It could either be the DNA card that was mentioned in the document by Sheriff Moon and Mr. Reber, MD, dental records, which we remember they were unknown in August. I don't know why. There was no dental records pulled up for a missing kid. Nothing's said about the fingerprints, no mention of them being taken. And then she might have also been identified by her hardware serial number. Let's just read the part of the incident report that talks about it. Orthopedic Hardware, and you can see it here on the images. So on the right is the right hand, left image is the left hand, so Kiely's was in her left hand. Orthopedic hardware attached to the ventral surface, and ventral surface or ventral side refers to the front of the body, of the distal radius, and distal means away from the center of the body, away from the midline of the body. And the radius is just this bone, like this bigger bone that's on the outside of our arm. It's ulna and radius, and so Kiely's was fractured or broken. And basically distal radius is just wrist. Next, we read that the hardware consists of stainless steel, 2-column volar plate held in place by multiple screws. So 2-column means that it literally has 2 columns. The one on the left has 1 column. It's 1 solid plate, and the one on the right is the kind that Kiely had. It's a 2-column plate, and it's held in place by multiple screws. So these colorful screws in the image. And volar plate is just a metallic device. In her case, it was stainless steel. I've also heard some questions on the cause of Kiely's injury, and literature said that this injury is most commonly caused by falling onto the back of the hand. And I tried to kind of visualize that, and it's easier to visualize if you think of someone maybe falling to their side rather than to the front. So yeah, I can see that happening. And then there's some research that has pointed to falls on the palm of the hand, which are a lot easier to imagine, also being a common cause. So she fell on her hand, either onto the back or onto the palm. Next, I want to cover the time of death. The book for medical examiners and coroners states that if the exact time of death is unknown, the time should be approximated by the person who certifies the death. So it's either unknown or approximately 8:33 p.m. Here, the death was pronounced on the 21st of August at 8:33 p.m. The time of death pronounced is a separate line on this document because it's not the same as time of death or date of death. So what are these digits all doing here? Why they don't have an approximation annotation? I cannot explain. On Coroner's final report of investigation from October 11th, they're also putting date of death as August 21st as well, which really shouldn't be there. Next, exploring the incident report. This moment caught my eye as well because it states that on the 21st of August, it was unknown whether Kiely was an organ or tissue donor. How is that possible? So it's only possible if the law enforcement never contacted the DMV and asked for her documentation in that regard. Or it's also possible if Kiely had an instruction permit. So this is what a California instruction permit looks like, and you can apply for it if you are at least 15 and a half and under 18. And an instruction permit does not let you drive alone at any time, not even to a DMV office to take the driving test, according to the DMV website. She shouldn't have been driving alone, right? Many channels have covered that. But if she was driving alone, let's assume maybe she had a full-on driver's license. She can absolutely apply for it, being between 16 and 18 years old, after meeting all this criteria. But then what surprises me is that any California driver's license, this is the new format, then there was the old format, but all of them had this donor spot right here. So it's either absent or present. So you're either a donor or you're not. But Kiely's donor status is unknown, so that gets a mustache for me as well. I'm done with this document for now. I am just going to give a fun fact about Nick the tow truck driver, just as a bonus. So according to the latest rating by a global analytics and advice firm, nurses lead the nation in ratings for honesty and ethics for the 20th consecutive year. And just in general, in many polls and reports, nurses are said to be the most trustworthy citizens, just in the perception of other citizens. And do you remember how they said that Nick the tow truck driver's girlfriend is a nurse? And maybe she is, and maybe Nick is telling the truth. I don't know. But if I had to falsify any information, I would say the nurse said it or confirmed it. So just, I don't know, ground for thought here. And again, not accusing anybody in any of my videos. Everything is for education and entertainment purposes only. Never visited Turkey and not affiliated with the communes and communities over there. And I'm going to be hopping off here. Hope you guys are all doing good. And we'll talk in the next one.